Hey, so when you're shopping online, you click buy now and just sort of assume the prices?
Mm.
Well, the price.
Yeah, you generally trust what you see there.
Right. But there's been some recent buzz, specifically around Amazon, about potentially showing more about why things cost what they do, particularly tariffs.
Oh, tariffs. Yeah, that's been in the news.
Exactly. So what's really going on? Why is this idea of showing a tariff cost causing kind of a stir?
It's interesting because it touches on something, international trade that impacts all of us, even if we don't always see it directly on the price tag.
Totally. So think of this as our friendly deep dive into tariffs, especially with this Amazon news swirling around. We'll keep it straightforward, no heavy economics jargon, promise.
Good plan.
Our mission today is really just to unpack what tariffs are, how they might affect the prices you pay, and what the implications could be if a giant like Amazon started highlighting them.
And we're basing this on some reporting, right?
Yeah, mainly looking at a CBS News article that really dug into the White House's response to all this.
Okay, got it. So maybe the best place to start is, what is a tariff in simple terms?
Good question. Let's demystify that a bit.
Well, basically, a tariff is just a tax. It's a tax on goods that are imported, brought into the U.S. from other countries.
So, like a sales tax, kind of, but specifically for stuff coming across the border.
Pretty much. It's paid by the U.S. companies that are actually bringing those goods in. The CBS article mentioned big names like Walmart and Target as examples of companies paying these duties.
Okay, so the company pays the tax. It's not like we get a separate bill from the government when we buy something made overseas.
No, not directly. You won't see a line item from Uncle Sam.
Huh.
But, and this is the key part for consumers,
Mm-hmm.
those companies, they often have to recover that cost somehow, right? So they frequently build that tariff cost into the price they charge you and me for the product.
Ah, okay. So while we don't pay the tax directly, it can make the final price higher. It gets passed down the chain.
Exactly. It's sort of hidden inside this sticker price sometimes.
Got it. So it's like an invisible cost that contributes to the final number we see. Now let's get into this specific Amazon situation. What was the idea that sparked all the discussion?
Well, according to a report from Punchbowl News, the idea was that Amazon was thinking about displaying the specific tariff cost right next to the product price.
Oh, interesting. Where were they thinking of doing this?
Specifically in their Amazon Hall store, that's their section for lower cost, more budget-friendly items, trying to compete with places like Temu or Shine.
Right, the ultra low cost market.
Yeah. So the idea was maybe transparency,
Hmm.
showing shoppers, hey, this much of the price is because of import taxes.
And how did the White House take that news? The CBS article mentioned their reaction.
They reacted pretty strongly. Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, was quoted calling the potential move a hostile and political act.
Hostile and political. Wow, that's quite pointed.
It is. She also questioned the timing, apparently drawing comparisons to, past inflation figures and suggesting it wasn't appropriate now.
Why do you think they'd view it as hostile? What's the potential downside for them?
Well, you could speculate, right? Maybe it draws more public attention to the impact of current trade policies. Or perhaps they worry it makes inflation seem worse, even if the cost is already baked in, by highlighting a specific government-imposed cost.
Hmm.
It becomes a political football, potentially.
Yeah, that makes sense. Shifting focus, maybe. So what was Amazon's response to this report? Did they say, yep, we're doing it?
Actually, no. Quite the opposite. A spokesperson, Tim Doyle, told CBS News that, yes, the idea was considered for Amazon Hall.
Uh-huh.
But, and this is the important part, quote, it was never approved and is not going to happen.
Okay, so a non-starter in the end.
Yep.
An idea kicked around, but ultimately shelved.
Seems that way. But the whole reason this is even a topic is because these tariffs do exist and are impacting costs.
Right. Right, the article specifically mentioned the tariffs from the Trump administration.
Exactly. It noted some really high ones, particularly on Chinese goods, up to 145% in some cases, apparently.
145%, that's massive.
It really is.
Yeah.
And more recently, there was that temporary pause mentioned, which set a sort of baseline rate of 10% for many other nations. The goal behind these often was stated as, protecting domestic industries or addressing trade imbalances.
So these costs are definitely out there. And are we actually seeing the effects on Amazon prices already? The article touched on some data, didn't it?
It did. It mentioned a price tracking tool, SmartScout.
Yeah, Smart Scout.
They reportedly found price hikes on nearly 1,000 of the top 100,000 selling products on Amazon.
Okay, 1,000 products. And how much were prices going up, according to them?
Well, their estimate was an average increase of about 30%. which sounds pretty significant.
30%. Yeah, that definitely catches your attention. Did Amazon agree with that?
Not exactly. Amazon pushed back on those numbers. They argued that the products Smart Scout highlighted represented only about 1% of their top sellers.
Okay, so a small fraction in their view.
Oh, right. And they also said the most common increase they observed on those items was closer to 6%, not 30%. So quite a different picture depending on how you slice the data.
Hmm. So some disagreement on the scale of the impact. But price increases are happening even if the exact average is debated?
It seems so. Amazon's broader statement was that they haven't seen, quote, appreciable changes beyond normal fluctuations and that they're still meeting or beating competitor prices. But it definitely shows it's complex to track across such a massive platform.
Absolutely. It's not always clear cut.
Hmm.
But the article did mention another company taking a very different, very direct approach to this whole tariff thing.
Oh, right, Dame, the sexual wellness brand.
Yeah, tell us about that. What did they do?
They actually implemented what they call a $5 Trump tariff surcharge right on their online checkout.
Seriously, just added it as a line item.
Yep, very direct. No hiding it. They're explicitly telling customers part of this price is due to these specific tariffs.
Wow, that is just transparent. Bold, even. Puts it right out there for the customer to see.
It certainly does. It's a contrasting approach to, say, the possibility Amazon considered and then rejected.
Okay, so let's try and wrap our heads around this. We've got the White House calling the idea of showing tariffs hostile. We have Amazon saying, nope, not happening. We've got data suggesting prices are up on some items, though the extent is debated.
Uh-huh.
And then you have a company like Dame just putting the tariff costs right on the bill. It feels complicated.
It really is. There are economic factors, political considerations, different company strategies. But I think the core thing to take away, really, is that tariffs do add a cost layer to imported goods.
Right.
And that cost often finds its way to us, the consumers, one way or another. This whole Amazon discussion, even though the display idea isn't happening, it really just kind of pulled back the curtain on that reality.
Yeah, it highlights how these big trade policy decisions can actually trickle down and affect our everyday shopping, even if it's not always obvious.
Exactly. What seems like a small detail about price display suddenly opens up this whole conversation about global trade's impact.
So, for you listening, the main point is these taxes on imports, these tariffs, they can lead to higher prices for stuff you buy every day. And the debate around Amazon maybe showing these costs just underlines how these policies are constantly shaping the economy around us.
And it leaves you with a question to chew on, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now that you're maybe thinking a bit more about tariffs,
Yeah.
how might these hidden costs already be influencing your buying choices, even subconsciously? Are you picking one item over another without realizing a tariff played a role in their price difference?
That's a really good point. Something to definitely think about next time you're browsing online or walking down an aisle. If you found this helpful, sort of untangling the tariff talk,
And you want to keep digging into complex topics like this with us.
then definitely consider subscribing to the deep dive. We'd love to have you along as we explore more stories behind the headlines.
Yeah, subscribe so you don't miss out. We'll keep trying to make sense of these things together.